There was a time when I thought success in trading was just a matter of skill. If I could master the right strategy, control my emotions, and stick to the plan, I'd make it. But one evening, after watching another losing week wipe out what took months to build, I sat alone, staring at the chart, realizing something most traders never dare to admit. You don't have to be great at trading to make a good living from trading. That sounds controversial, right? Maybe even wrong. But let me explain. I've been in this game for 15 years. I've seen markets rise, crash, and reinvent themselves. I've watched brilliant analysts lose everything, and average traders quietly make steady profits. The difference wasn't just technical skill. It was how they lived around the market, how they positioned themselves financially, mentally, and emotionally to survive long enough to win. Most traders chase mastery as if it's a finish line. They think, once I become a pro, I'll finally make money. But the market doesn't reward perfection. It rewards adaptability. It rewards the trader who knows how to protect capital, manage lifestyle, diversify income, and grow slowly without the constant need to prove they're a genius. So today, I want to share a different way of seeing trading, not as a test of brilliance, but as a way of living, a discipline that lets you build a good life even before you become truly great at it. Because the truth is, if you can survive long enough, you'll get good. But if you can't live well during that process, you'll never last to see success. So in this video, I'm going to tell you the story of how I went from chasing every move of the market, desperate to make it, to building a life where I could breathe, earn, and grow steadily, even when I wasn't winning every trade. This is the story of how to live well, earn well, and stay alive in the game, even before you're truly great at trading. When I first started trading, I was 22, fresh out of college, full of ambition, and completely broke. I remember sitting in my small apartment with a secondhand laptop that overheated every 20 minutes, watching charts move like they were alive, pulsing, breathing, teasing me with opportunity. I'd scroll through forums, watch trading gurus on YouTube, and believe I was just one strategy away from freedom. In my head, trading was the perfect escape. No boss, no limits, just me and the market. I thought I could outsmart everyone, institutions, algorithms, even time itself. But what I didn't understand was that trading wasn't just about knowledge, it was about structure. And I had none. My days were chaotic. I'd stay up all night watching London Open, skip meals, drink too much coffee, and chase setups that weren't even part of my plan. Because honestly, I didn't have a plan. I was fueled by emotion and the fantasy of making it. One night, I remember opening a trade right before going to bed, convinced it would be a big win by morning. When I woke up, my account was down 40%. 40% gone overnight. That day broke something in me. I wasn't just losing money, I was losing control. I called a friend, an older trader I'd met in a forum. He laughed, not to mock me, but because he'd been there too. He said something I'll never forget. You think trading is about being right. It's not. It's about staying alive long enough to get better. At the time, it didn't fully sink in, but that single line became the seed of everything I understand about trading now. You see, in those early years, I thought the goal was to make money from the market. But the real goal was to build a life around the market, one that could sustain the ups and downs without breaking me. I started noticing something about the traders who lasted. They didn't live for trading, they lived with it. They had other streams of income, balanced routines, hobbies, families, and most importantly, perspective. Meanwhile, I was isolating myself, measuring my worth by my last trade, judging my intelligence by my last profit or loss. Trading was supposed to give me freedom, but I had made it my prison. It took me years to realize that living well, sleeping well, eating well, spending time outside the charts wasn't a distraction. It was an edge. Because when your life is in balance, your trading follows. That's when I began to rebuild, not just my strategy, but my structure. I learned to manage risk properly, but also to manage myself. I stopped trying to make every dollar from trading and started building ways to earn that would support my journey. Freelancing, small projects, anything that reduced the pressure of having to win every trade. That's how I started living with the market instead of being consumed by it. Looking back, those early years were painful but necessary. They taught me the difference between trading for survival and trading for growth. Because you can't grow if every loss threatens your survival. It was around my 5th year in the markets when everything came crashing down. By then, I wasn't a beginner anymore. I had systems, backtests, and what I thought was discipline. But deep inside, I was still trading from fear. Fear of missing out. Fear of being wrong. Fear of going back to zero. I remember that week vividly. Bitcoin was skyrocketing, and everyone, friends, influencers, even people who'd never traded before, was making money. My system told me not to enter, but my ego whispered, "You're missing the move of a lifetime." So I jumped in. Over-leveraged, emotional, blind. Within hours, the market reversed. Hard. I watched my profits vanish, then turn into losses. I told myself it would bounce. It didn't. I kept adding to the position, convincing myself I was averaging in. But what I was really doing was averaging my way to destruction. By the end of the week, my account was wiped. Not just reduced, gone. I sat there in silence, staring at the screen, feeling the kind of emptiness that doesn't come from losing money, it comes from losing direction. I remember walking outside that night. It was raining, one of those slow, quiet rains that makes the city feel like it's breathing in slow motion. For the first time, I thought seriously about quitting. I had given 5 years of my life to trading. 5 years of study, losses, wins, and sleepless nights. And what did I have to show for it? Nothing but exhaustion. But as I stood there, something clicked. Not like an epiphany, more like a quiet acceptance. Maybe this was what the market had been trying to teach me all along. That I couldn't control it. That I couldn't force it to reward me. That trading wasn't supposed to make me feel powerful. It was supposed to make me humble. I realized that every loss, every blown account, every sleepless night wasn't punishment, it was tuition. The market had been teaching me who I was, and I hadn't been listening. That night, I deleted all my indicators, every single one. I told myself, if I'm going to start over, I'll do it from truth, not from illusion. I spent weeks not trading, just watching. Watching how the market moved, how people reacted, how fear and greed created patterns that repeated endlessly. And slowly, I started seeing what I hadn't before, that price wasn't random, that it reflected human behavior, collective psychology, and that understanding people was as important as understanding charts. That realization became the turning point of my career. Trading stopped being about prediction and started being about observation, stopped being about profit and started being about process. And ironically, that's when things began to change. Because once I stopped needing the market to validate me, I started trading better. Once I stopped trying to be right, I started becoming consistent. And when I stopped chasing the idea of getting rich, I started building the foundation for staying free. That breakdown wasn't the end. It was the moment I stopped trading like a gambler and started thinking like a professional.
After the crash, I made myself a promise. If I ever come back to trading, I'll do it differently. I'll do it like a craftsman, not a gambler. That promise changed everything. I started from zero, literally. No fancy tools, no signals, no chasing volatility. I treated trading like learning a profession. I began journaling every single trade, why I entered, how I felt, what I missed. I tracked my emotions as carefully as I tracked price levels. At first, it felt slow, almost boring. I wasn't chasing adrenaline anymore. I was chasing understanding. And slowly, the market started to make sense in a way it never had before. I learned that trading wasn't about catching every move. It was about surviving long enough to catch the right ones. I learned that success didn't come from finding the setup, but from executing it flawlessly when it appeared. And most importantly, I learned that the market doesn't reward the smartest trader. It rewards the most disciplined. Discipline became my edge. Every morning, I followed the same routine. I woke up before London opened, not to trade, but to observe. I'd study the price structure, mark the highs and lows, watch how liquidity formed around key zones. Then I'd walk away because patience was part of my system. No more impulsive entries, no more revenge trades. If I didn't see alignment between structure, liquidity, and sentiment, I did nothing. That was hard. Sitting still is harder than clicking buy. But that's where true mastery begins, in restraint. And the funny thing is, the moment I began doing less, I started earning more. My win rate didn't skyrocket overnight, but my consistency did. I began understanding what edge really meant, not a magical pattern, but a repeatable behavior executed under control. I also started working on my mindset, not in a superficial, motivational way, but deeply. I asked myself hard questions. Why did I trade? Was it to prove something, to escape something, or to build something real? The answer changed everything. I realized I didn't want to be the guy who beats the market. I wanted to be the guy who understood it, respected it, and grew with it, without letting it destroy who I was outside the charts. That's when trading started aligning with life. Discipline in charts became discipline in how I ate, slept, and thought. Patience in waiting for setups became patience in conversations, in decisions, in relationships. Trading wasn't just something I did anymore. It was shaping who I was becoming. And that's when I started seeing growth. Not just in profit, but in peace. I realized that consistency in trading isn't about eliminating losses. It's about eliminating chaos. Because the market is chaos by design. And your job as a trader is not to control it, but not to become it. That's what discipline really means. And that's what separates the trader who survives from the one who fades away. When I look back, that rebuild phase was the most important part of my career. Not because I made the most money.
There's a strange moment in every trader's journey when things start to click. Not in a cinematic way, no fireworks, no sudden breakthrough, but like a quiet shift inside your mind. For me, it happened one morning during the London session. I was watching Euro USD consolidate after a big move down. Normally, I would have been hunting an entry, impatient to catch the reversal. But that day, I did something different. I just watched. I noticed how the liquidity formed above the Asian high. I saw the stop runs, the fake breakouts, the silent traps that used to catch me every time. And for the first time, I wasn't emotional. I wasn't trying to predict the move. I was simply reading it.
It felt like watching a wild animal you finally understood how to track, not to control it, but to respect its nature. That's when it hit me. Trading isn't about fighting the market, it's about flowing with it. You don't impose your will on it, you align your logic with its rhythm. From that point, everything changed. My trading size stayed small, but my confidence grew stronger. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I didn't chase perfect trades anymore. I chased perfect execution. I learned to accept losses the same way I accepted wins. Both were feedback, not identity. And once you stop taking losses personally, your mind becomes free to think clearly again. I started stacking small, consistent wins. Not every day, but every week. My account stopped fluctuating wildly. My emotions stopped swinging with the P&L. I was building rhythm, and rhythm builds confidence. The key wasn't more indicators or new strategies or more screen time. It was simplicity and trust. I began to realize the market doesn't reward complexity. It rewards clarity. So I simplified everything. My charts, my plan, my goals. 3 pairs, 1 strategy, 1 execution style. That was it. And that simplicity gave me freedom, the kind I'd been chasing through chaos for years. But stability wasn't just about trading performance. It was about who I was becoming outside the chart. I stopped defining my worth by my trading results. I started reading again, journaling again, taking care of my body, even traveling when I could. And strangely, that made me a better trader. Because the more I focused on building myself, the more the market started rewarding me. Trading is a mirror. It reflects your inner state. If you're unstable, emotional, desperate, the market will amplify it. But when you're calm, patient, detached, it starts to align with you. That's what I learned at that turning point. Trading mastery isn't about knowing more than others. It's about knowing yourself more deeply than before. I used to think confidence came from winning trades. Now I know it comes from doing the right thing even when it's boring. And when you reach that stage, something magical happens. The noise disappears. You stop jumping between systems, stop fearing losses, stop comparing yourself. You just trade your plan day after day because it's yours. And that kind of confidence, it can't be taught. It's earned through pain, patience, and presence. That was the real turning point for me. Not when I became profitable, but when I finally became peaceful.
When I started to understand how the market truly works, it felt like stepping behind the curtain of a magic show. For years, I thought I was trading against other retail traders, like me. I imagined this big arena full of individuals clicking buy and sell, each hoping to win a little more than the next person. But that illusion breaks the day you realize the real opponent isn't another trader. It's the structure itself. The market isn't fair. It's designed by the few for the few. Liquidity is the game, and retail traders are the liquidity. Here's what that means. When you see a clean breakout level, a double top, a strong trend line, smart money sees liquidity pools. They know exactly where retail stop losses sit, where fear lives, and where greed hides. They don't enter with the crowd. They position against it. Once I accepted that truth, my trading transformed. I stopped asking, where will the market go? Instead, I started asking, where does the market need to go to collect liquidity before it moves? That single shift changed everything. Because now I was no longer chasing moves. I was waiting for traps. I learned to see the footprints of manipulation. The fake breakout before the real move, the sudden spikes at low volume times, the engineered stop hunts that clean the board right before price exploded. It's not personal, it's just business. Smart money doesn't hate retail traders. They need them. They need our stops, our panic, our impatience, because that's what fuels the market engine. The day you stop being part of that liquidity pool, you start trading like the people who move it. And here's what's funny. The smart money mindset isn't about having secret information or trading from an institution. It's about thinking strategically, not emotionally. They never ask, "Can I make money today?" They ask, "Where is the crowd trapped, and how can I position myself where they're forced to lose?" That's why patience is their greatest edge. They wait for the perfect alignment, where liquidity, structure, and timing meet, and then they strike once, not 10 times. When I adopted that mindset, my trading volume dropped by 70%, but my accuracy skyrocketed. Less trades, more conviction, fewer doubts. And more importantly, I began to feel the rhythm of the market. I could sense when something was off, when a move felt too easy, or when a candle printed in a way that screamed manipulation. Because I had lived through those traps too many times before. That's the beauty of pain. Once you've been burned enough, you start to recognize the fire. The smart money mindset also changed how I viewed success. It's not about predicting the market. It's about preparing for both outcomes and managing risk so that no single loss can destroy you. Smart money doesn't fear losses. They plan for them. They don't try to win every trade. They try to win the long game. And that's the secret no one tells you early on. The market isn't about being right. It's about being ready. So when I say smart money, I'm not talking about banks or institutions. I'm talking about a way of thinking, patient, strategic, detached. The mindset that plays the game while everyone else reacts to it. When you adopt that mindset, you stop being prey. You become the quiet hunter, the one who waits, observes, and moves only when the odds are clear. That's when trading stops being chaos and becomes art.
There's a moment in every trader's life when the noise fades and you begin to see the market for what it truly is, a mirror. It reflects back your impatience, your greed, your fear, and your ego. And if you stare long enough, you realize that trading isn't about beating the market, it's about mastering yourself. That's when I learned the slow game. When I was younger, I wanted everything fast. Fast profits, fast validation, fast freedom. But every time I tried to force the market to give me what I wanted, it punished me. Because the market doesn't reward speed, it rewards discipline. So I began to shift my focus. Instead of chasing big wins, I focused on small, consistent growth, one good decision at a time. I stopped trying to double my account in a month. I started aiming for one thing: to stay in the game. Most traders lose because they don't last long enough to learn. They blow up accounts before the real lessons even begin. But if you can survive, if you can manage risk, protect capital, and stay emotionally grounded, time becomes your greatest ally. Trading, I realized, isn't a sprint. It's compound interest applied to your mindset. The longer you trade, the sharper your instincts become. The more data your mind collects, the more natural your reactions. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you evolve. From guessing to anticipating, from reacting to planning. The slow game is where real freedom lives. Because when you're no longer desperate for the next trade, you make decisions from power, not fear. You don't need the market to move today, you just need to follow your process. And ironically, that's when results begin to accelerate. Because consistency compounds. Every patient day,
Every avoided mistake, every small win adds up, quietly, invisibly, until one day you wake up and realize you've built something real. I stopped measuring success in profits. I started measuring it in peace. Did I follow my plan today? Did I stay calm under pressure? Did I trade with clarity or with emotion? Because here's the truth. If you can control your emotions, money will eventually follow. But no amount of money can save you if you can't control your emotions. The slow game also changed my relationship with failure. Losses used to crush me. Now they educate me. Each loss is data, feedback, a clue from the market whispering, "Look closer." And if you listen long enough, the market becomes your best teacher. Some days I still feel the urge to rush, to make something happen, to catch up. But I remind myself, the market isn't going anywhere. Opportunities don't vanish, they recycle. The only thing that burns out is the impatient trader. If you can slow down, truly slow down, you start to see patterns others miss. You sense when the crowd is overconfident, when volatility is deceptive, when calmness precedes chaos. That's the intuition only time can give you. The slow game isn't sexy. It won't make for viral TikToks or screenshot flexes. But it's the only path that leads to real, lasting freedom. And that's the goal, isn't it? Not just to make money, but to live life on your own terms. To trade without fear, to sleep peacefully, to wake up knowing your decisions are guided by skill, not luck. That's the slow game, the one that rewards those who stay, not those who rush. Because the market always tests who can wait the longest. And patience, my friend, is the ultimate edge.
After my worst year in trading, the year I lost nearly everything I had built, I faced a simple but brutal question. Do I quit or do I rebuild? At that time, rebuilding felt impossible. My confidence was gone. My savings were gone. Even my sense of identity was shattered. For years, trading had been the thing that defined me, the dream that gave my life direction. And suddenly, it felt like the market had taken that dream and crushed it into dust. But here's the thing. Losing everything was also the moment I finally stopped lying to myself. When you lose big, there's no more room for ego, no more pretending. You're forced to confront what you've been ignoring, your flaws, your habits, your blind spots. That's where rebuilding truly begins. So I started small. I traded micro lots again, like a beginner. I journaled every trade, every thought, every emotion. Not to find the perfect system, but to understand myself. When I lost, I didn't rage or panic. I wrote down what I felt and why I felt it. When I won, I didn't celebrate. I studied what worked. Slowly, the process itself became my reward. I stopped trying to rebuild my account. I rebuilt my discipline. I stopped chasing the old version of me. I started shaping a new one. And with that shift, something powerful happened. The losses that once broke me started teaching me. They showed me where my weakness lived, in my impatience, my overconfidence, my obsession with control. Every drawdown was no longer a failure, it was feedback. I also learned to rebuild not just my trading system, but my life system. I structured my day around clarity. Morning exercise to stabilize emotions. A strict trading window to prevent overtrading. Time off screens to reset my perspective. You see, rebuilding isn't about coming back stronger in the same way. It's about coming back different. The trader who blew up his account couldn't survive in the next chapter. I had to evolve into someone new, calmer, wiser, detached from the need to prove anything. And over time, rebuilding became its own kind of success.
I learned that consistency doesn't come from confidence, it comes from clarity. And clarity is born in loss. Those months of rebuilding were quiet, humbling, even lonely. No one clapped for me. No one cared that I was trading again. But those were the months that forged me, the ones that taught me patience, humility, and the strength to keep showing up even when no one was watching. Looking back now, I realize that losing everything wasn't the end of my journey. It was the beginning of the real one. Because you can't truly build something unshakable until you've had everything shaken. Every trader who lasts eventually learns this truth. The market doesn't destroy you to punish you. It destroys you to prepare you, to strip away the illusions, the shortcuts, the false confidence, and to force you to rebuild on a foundation that can actually last. That's the gift hidden in every loss. If you have the courage to start again, you'll never really be starting from zero. You'll be starting from experience.
It took me years to understand this. Trading was never meant to be the destination. It was meant to be the vehicle. For a long time, I believed financial freedom meant sitting in front of charts all day, trading full-time, making money from anywhere, being free. But when I finally reached that stage, I wasn't free at all. I was trapped in a different kind of cage, one made of obsession. I checked the charts every hour, even on weekends. I couldn't relax on vacations. Every move in the market felt personal, like a test of my worth. And that's when I realized freedom doesn't come from making money in the market. It comes from not needing to be in the market every moment. That was the real shift. I began to see trading as one piece of a bigger picture, a tool that could fund the life I wanted, not become my life. So I diversified. I invested in long-term assets, built side projects, mentored new traders, even started creating content, not because I needed to, but because I finally had something to say. And something amazing happened. The less I needed to trade for money, the better I traded. When you remove pressure, your decisions become clearer. You stop forcing trades. You start waiting. You trade when conditions align, not when your ego demands validation. I learned to see the market as a partner, not a battlefield. And when I did, everything changed. My results, my mindset, my peace. That's what I mean when I say freedom beyond trading. It's not about escaping work or retiring early. It's about building a life so aligned with your values that trading becomes an extension of who you are, not the definition of your worth. I started designing my days around balance, not volatility. Morning runs replaced anxious chart checks. Deep work sessions replaced doom scrolling through market news. I reconnected with friends I'd ignored for years because I was too busy trading. And strangely, the more I lived outside the market, the more the market made sense. Because the truth is, markets are a reflection of human behavior: fear, greed, hope, uncertainty. Once you understand yourself, you understand the market. This was the shift I wish someone had told me about earlier. Trading isn't supposed to consume you. It's supposed to free you. The charts will always be there. The opportunities never end. But your time, your energy, your relationships, your peace, those are finite. And if trading costs you all that, then what's the point of winning a game that makes you lose your life? So I changed my definition of success. It wasn't about how much I made in a month. It was about how much peace I had at the end of the day. It wasn't about proving I could beat the market. It was about becoming the kind of person who no longer needed to do that. That's the real transformation. When trading stops being your identity
and becomes your instrument. When money stops being your obsession and becomes your resource. When freedom isn't something you chase, it's something you live.
Looking back now, after 15 years in the markets, I can say this with complete honesty. Trading didn't just teach me about money, it taught me about myself. Every win fed my ego. Every loss humbled it. Every period of uncertainty forced me to face the parts of me that craved control, validation, and certainty in a world that offers none of those things. In many ways, trading became a mirror, one that reflected not who I wanted to be, but who I really was when things got hard. It showed me that consistency doesn't come from strategy. It comes from character. The discipline to wait for a setup isn't about patience, it's about trust. The courage to take a loss isn't about bravery, it's about acceptance. The ability to trade well under pressure isn't about intelligence, it's about emotional balance. And maybe that's why so many traders never make it. They think they're fighting the market, but they're really fighting themselves. The market doesn't care about your goals, your bills, or your plans. It rewards clarity, patience, and humility. And it punishes ego, fear, and greed every single time. So if you're watching this and you're still early in your journey, maybe you haven't found consistency yet, maybe you're doubting if you'll ever make it, hear this from someone who's been through every high and every heartbreak. You don't need to be the smartest trader. You just need to become the most self-aware one. Stop chasing shortcuts. Stop comparing your path to someone else's highlight reel. Start mastering yourself, your reactions, your discipline, your beliefs about money and success. Because once you do that, the market will start making sense. And not just the market, life itself. I used to think trading was about independence, not having to answer to anyone, not having a boss. But the truth is, trading is about responsibility. When there's no boss, no one to blame, no structure, your success or failure rests entirely on you. And that level of accountability changes you if you let it. Trading made me a calmer person, a more patient listener, a more thoughtful thinker. It taught me to see opportunities where others see chaos, to act with intention, and to walk away when the odds aren't in my favor, both in the market and in life. And maybe that's the greatest gift trading can give you. Not just money, not fame, not freedom, but clarity. Clarity about who you are, what you value, and what kind of life you want to build. Because at the end of the day, markets will rise and fall. Strategies will come and go. But the kind of person you become through this journey, that's something no loss can take away. So my message is simple. Keep learning. Keep showing up. Keep building, not just your trading system, but yourself. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be progressing. The market will always reward that. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not next month, but one day you'll wake up, look at the charts, and realize you don't trade for the money anymore. You trade because it's who you are. Calm, intentional, free. That's when you'll know you've made it.